Hello, everybody, and welcome to my presentation on Tommy Tutone's 8675309/Jenny. I am subtitling this A Study in Musical Balance for reasons that we will get into in some of the following slides. This is a presentation for American Vernacular Music in fall of 2020 as part of the University of Florida's Masters in Music Education program. On the surface, this song seems like it would just be really annoying, honestly. The chorus is just a guy yelling a phone number at you. So why has this song stayed so popular since it was released in the 80s? And why do people love it so much? So there's a couple things that I think we can tune into. For one, here we have a solid balance between syncopated and on-beat rhythms, and we're going to look at that in a little bit more detail, especially in the intro and the guitar riff that goes through the verse and the chorus. We have an interesting length of the pre-chorus here, 6 bars. It's the only part of the song that's not an 8-bar or 16-bar segment. We have what I'm referring to here as the rule of threes, which is being applied to the intro, the verse rhythm, and the vocals in the chorus. And the rule of threes is something you hear about it in sitcom theory, as well as lots of other different places in life as well. Essentially means you can do something 3 times before it becomes annoying. And they make really, really great use of that here and apply it really to the extreme. And the last thing is what key are we in here? There's a lot of references to different key centers here and different notes that maybe reflect different modes or things like that. So we're going to take a look at all of those things coming up. So here we have the intro riff for the song, and you'll notice right in that first bar we have a couple of instances of syncopation where we're playing a note on the and then it's tied over to the downbeat. It's just 2 instances there, but it's enough to make the riff not just feel like a straight 8th note line all the way through, but it's not overwhelming. It's not hitting you over the head with syncopation right out of the gate. I'll play a little bit of that riff for you. You'll also notice that if we looked at the end of 2 in the first bar, we have a D natural there. But if we go to beat 3 in the second bar, we have a D sharp. So this is one of those things I was referring to earlier on about what key are we in here. So the D natural might suggest that, hey, we're in the key of A major or we're in the key of F sharp minor, but that D sharp can kind of complicate things a little bit. So now, maybe we're leaning more towards an F sharp Dorian kind of a thing there. So right out of the gate, we're giving the listener something to listen for that they might not be used to. We're mixing modes in just a 2-bar introductory riff. Now this is one of my favorite parts about this whole intro, really. You can see like on the and of 1 and then on beat 2, we have 2 E's in a row if you're looking at the notation. However, because this is played on a guitar, we can do some interesting things with that. So instead of just going and playing the same note twice, just picking the note twice, they'll actually play one of those E's as an open string, like so. And that allows those notes to kind of all ring into each other. And that right there, those first 3 open E strings are all repeating the note that comes right before them. So for example, you can see an E note followed by another E note, which just plays an open string. That happens 3 times. Now we do have one more open E string, but this time it's preceded by a D sharp, but not by the same note that it was just played as. And this gives us something a little bit different. This goes back to that rule of threes that I was talking about before. Here's the beginning. So now we want something a little bit different on the 4th one. We still have the same idea. We still have that open E string going, but now we get a little bit more dissonance there when we mix it together with the fretted note. And then one more time. So this employs that rule of threes very, very well. We have 3 of the same thing. We have 2 E's played back to back. One is an open string and one is a fretted note. But then on the fourth time, we've now switched it. The open E string stays the same, but we have a D sharp to provide a little bit of dissonance. So here we have the rhythm guitar part, and this first shows up in the second half of the intro, and it stays prevalent throughout the verse and the chorus. It keeps coming back throughout the song. And we can see quite a few instances here of syncopation, 4 instances in fact. But it stays very well balanced between syncopation and on beat notes. So right at the beginning here, we have a note that's right on beat 1, and then we have a syncopated note but followed immediately by a note that's on the beat. Keeping everything balanced there. Now these next 3, indicated by the blue arrows and in between the little red brackets there, I'm going to refer to this as the rule of 3s concept again. We have 3 notes that are going to be on the upbeat, and then we're going to balance out those 3 by changing the 4th one and putting it on the downbeat. All right. So this way we still get that, catchy kind of, upbeat feeling of having the syncopation, but we're balanced out by putting that last note on the downbeat, so we don't start to feel like like it's a reggae song or anything like that. It still feels like more of a standard rock groove because it's balanced out by the notes on the downbeat. So here we have the pre-chorus, and as we mentioned in one of those earlier slides, the pre-chorus is the only section of the song that is not a unit of 8 bars or 16. And anybody that's studied any popular music for any length of time knows that typically most phrases in popular music are going to be 4, 8, or 16 bars in length. They have a very nice, even and symmetrical type of feel to them. And for the most part, this song does that. Almost everything else is 8 or 16 bars, but the pre-chorus is 6. And I think this is really, really important for maintaining that balance. I think if every part of the song was 8 or 16, it starts to feel very monotonous. And there's just this one section being 6 bars long really helps to break up that monotony. And in addition to that, we have an interesting chord progression here. So for one, we're now starting this on an E chord, which is different. In the previous section, the verse rhythm guitar part we looked at in the last slide started on an F sharp every time, kind of indicating that, F sharp minor perhaps. But this is starting on an E, so now we have more of like an E Mixolydian type chord progression here. And if you look at the theory of it, F sharp minor and E Mixolydian have the same notes. They're all from the same parent scale, but they do have a different feel to them. So the pre-chorus here, it starts on an E chord, and then we play a D and an A. But in the second group of measures, here measures 3 and 4, it still starts on an E chord, but now we have an A and a D. So again, instead of just doing the same thing 3 times right in a row, they've mixed it up a little bit in the middle, just providing just a small amount of variation, enough to kind of keep things interesting. So I'll play through that chord progression for you now so you can hear it. All right, here we are. We finally made it to the chorus. And we can see that same rule of 3s concept here in the chorus really, really clearly. This is probably the most obvious example of it that we've seen so far. And I have some numbers written in here. The way this works is that the lead vocalist sings the first 2 bars of the chorus, indicated by that little number 1 in the circle in the first couple of brackets. And he sings that first melody that we all know. And then this is answered immediately by the background vocal singing back the exact same melody. And I think this is a really important concept here. By having somebody else sing that same melody back in a live setting, or even when people are listening along, to it on the radio or something, if they hear somebody besides the lead singer sing it, they're going to be more inclined to kind of jump in and sing it themselves. So they almost get this feeling like there's some audience participation baked right into the chorus. Really genius the way they did it. And I think it's also really important to note that the the first part of this chorus is exactly 2 bars long. It fills up the entire 2 measures and goes right into the background vocalist singing. There's no space between, and I think that also kind of contributes to the flow of the whole chorus here. So we have that same thing happen 3 times in a row. The lead vocalist does it the first time. If we look at block number 2, that's the backup vocalist singing there. And then the third section is back to the lead vocalist again. So now the 4th time, again, just like all the other times, the first 3 are the same. The 4th time, we're going to have a little variation. And this is what really helps this chorus from getting monotonous. I mean, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's just a phone number, shouted over and over. So we really need something a little bit different on this last time. They don't change the lyrics, but they change the note that we start on. So now instead of starting on a C sharp, we're going to be starting here on an A. So the beginning, the first, second, and third melody, again, sounds like this. And then this last one actually starts on the same note that we just left off on, which is an A. So that last one just being a little bit lower in pitch, even though the vocals are the same, the contour is largely the same, the fact that it's a little bit lower in pitch gives us just that little bit of variation that we need to keep things interesting. And here we have a look at the form for the entire tune, all spelled out. A lot of repetition throughout, but they do a nice job of adding little extra layers here and there as it goes on. So for example, in the first verse, you really just hear this, that kind of thing in there. But then the second verse has got an additional guitar riff kind of underneath there. There's also more fills, kind of that whole like, that kind of riff. It shows up quite a bit more in the second verse just to give it a little bit more variation. One thing that I found really, really interesting about this is that there is no double chorus in this until we get to the very, very end. A double chorus is a really common, musical trick that people will use to kind of get the listeners amped up, get people into the music. But I think they knew that with this song, if they did that chorus one too many times, it was just going to start to get monotonous. And so it was really interesting that the chorus is just 8 bars, and then they go on to whether it's the verse again or the bridge, whatever it might be. And then even at the very end, where they do have the double chorus, they have the regular chorus, then they have more of like an ad-lib chorus where it's just the background vocals doing the main chorus line, and then the lead vocalist is doing, just some other kind of improvised lines tossed in there before the fade out. So it really it keeps things interesting all the way through without just kind of doing chorus, 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 which I really like. One other quick note I wanted to make too is after the guitar solo, we get into the pre-chorus again, and there's still some little guitar fills in there. And one of the fills that you're hearing this, which actually has that's got a G natural in the lick. There's right there. G natural has no place in in the key of F sharp minor or in E mixolydian or anything like that. That would be one of those blue notes. We read about that in the readings last week. A very common, that would be like the if you're thinking it's E mixolydian, that's the flat third. It just goes to show that it never sounds bad to play the blues. All right, that wraps up this presentation of Tommy Tutone's 8675309/Jenny. I appreciate you sticking with me all the way to the end, and I really hope that you got something out of this presentation that you can use in your own music or in your music listening. So thanks again.